Oh, absolutely. Love the movie. Seen it so many times. Just Mel Brooks in general with, from Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, all that. It's just so iconic, and like Ike was just saying, how he pretty much created that whole genre.
Yeah.
For me, your sense of humor, I think it's formed pretty early, and I remember being like under 5 and watching History of the World, and like remember
a little older.
But I remember watching it, like the critic peeing on the art piece. I remember just seeing pee. It was the first time I saw urine represented on TV. And I remember laughing so hard uncontrollably. And then watching the movie a month later and finding new things. And then watching the movie yet later. And now I've seen it 100 times. And I watched it, right before we started working on this, just to kind of vibe out, and it was shocking how funny it still was, how accurate a lot of it still was, while also being a product of its time. And like we said, like there were movies before Mel that were very funny and cool and good, but they weren't hilarious. I don't think they were really hilarious until Mel came along. And that's kind of like my favorite things to watch, regardless of if it's the 80s or the 90s or a comedy like Borat. I think all those movies that I love really come from Mel in one way or the other. I'm an Illinois man, and I always have been very interested in the Civil War, and I always thought he was such a fascinating guy. I read Chernoff's book on it, and he was just so complex, because he really, if it wasn't for him, we might all be sipping sweet tea right now and saying y'all. And you would not be probably not, almost certainly not. But he had like this huge responsibility of winning this horrible war. And the troops respected him so much, and he commanded so much dignity. But he really loved whiskey. He loved to drink, and he drank because he couldn't cope with what he saw in the horrors of war. But we just thought there was something so funny there about a guy who has this huge thing that he has to do, but he also really is would love to have a little tiny, just a little drink to wet in the whistle. And it was just, he just seemed like he had so many contradictions within himself. He'd be a very funny character. When we set about this show, when you look at the work that Mel did, a lot of it comes down to lexicon. A lot of it comes down to specific words that people don't say anymore. And for people to pretend like this is a new phenomenon is crazy. There were comedians in 1970 who were like, you can't say what you said in 1956 anymore. All these woke kids and the kids in the 50s said the 20s used to be able to say this. So you really come down to like words and stuff. But we wanted to focus on the themes and the message of Mel. And it really does feel like for a lot of his movies, a lot of the themes are we're going to explore an every man or an every woman. And without getting political or really like taking sides, we're going to call out the hypocrisy of the people who kind of are in charge and how greedy and stupid they can be. And so we tried our best to kind of take that spirit into the show, while also adhering to Mel's advice to us, which was don't be afraid to make dirty jokes. And I think because we kind of held those beliefs in our head, we didn't really run into problems of like, hey, let's get on the front lines of a culture war. You know what I mean? We're just like, let's just make the stupidest, offensive, dumb, fun show that we can possibly do and let people watch it and just enjoy themselves.
I've always wanted to do something or play Shirley Chisholm. And so early on we were developing, and we were just throwing out, historical figures who we were into. And then, the guy said, you know what, you're great in the multicam world. You're actually shooting one now. Let's do a Shirley Chisholm sitcom. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever. So we just ran with it and had so much fun. And she's very important to me. So there's something, I think we were very protective of her. You know, it's like it's not making fun of Shirley Chisholm at all. It's the story and the environment, political environment that she had to deal with at that time. So to me, it was very sweet, but just like you said, just very funny. A Shirley Chisholm sitcom, and I would absolutely watch that show.
Probably my favorite thing to work on writing was that sitcom, because it was just like, oh yeah, have Kissinger and Nixon enter, and then you hear like birds like froze when they enter, and the audience boos.
I grew up with a book and a record album called Free to Be You and Me, and Mel and Marlo Thomas played babies in the hospital, and and I know every single word and intonation, and I imitated Mel and Marlo. And so it would be like, hi, I'm a baby. Well, what do you think I am, a loaf of bread? You could be, I don't know nothing yet, I just born it. You know, and it's like, it's formed me. And then 3,000-Year-Old Man, and then Young Frankenstein, and then High Anxiety, and then History of the World Part 1. I don't remember the first time I ever saw it, because it's always been in here. He has been a part, like, that's just who we are. That's the kid I grew up in the 70s. And so that is my language. And, you know, he is our country's one-man Jewish Monty Python. When you sit there and think, oh, you know, all of these legends and icons who kind of paved the way for us are still alive, and we should give them their flowers now. This is better than that. This isn't even like passive flowers. Like, he's involved and his son's involved, and he gets to get this like nachas. You got to speak Yiddish when you're talking about Mel Brooks, of, you know, that Nick Kroll and Ike Barinholtz adore him so much, and they wanted to continue this legacy. It's literally like a kind of perfect harmonic convergence of everything, and the right time to have this kind of satire and this kind of parody that feels really naughty and a bit dangerous, and push the envelope, because that's what Mel always did. And we are literally thirsty. We are dying of thirst for that right now. Yeah. And that's what this is.